On behalf of our ACDP President, the Reverend Dr. Kenneth Meshwe, I wish to greet our Deputy President, former President Motlanthe, leaders of political parties, Western Cape Premier, and with all protocol observed, allow me to state that the African Christian Democratic Party is no stranger to coalition politics. From the early 2000s, the ACDP was one of the first political parties to enter into a coalition with the DA in the Western Cape, amongst other political parties. And we were instrumental in the drafting of the first coalition agreement documents, which are still in use, perhaps with some amendments. That coalition, however, did not go well for us. Perhaps if we had legislation in place then, the signatories to the agreement would have honored it for the full term. It must be made abundantly clear that the African Christian Democratic Party has always supported a constitutional democracy. We've asked ourselves, what type of democracy? We must ask ourselves, what type of democracy is envisioned and supported by our Constitution? And even an elementary read will confirm that our Constitution supports a multi-party democracy. Clearly then, if the Constitution supports a multi-party democracy, then this must be factored into any legislative amendments or coalition systems and agreements that are to be developed going forward. It must be made abundantly clear that the cause of the collapse of the majority of municipalities is not coalitions, but corruption, nepotism, and a flouting of the rule of law. The Auditor General's report will confirm that. The ACDP concurs with the Prevention Technology Transfer Center Network, PTTC, who state that there are 6 elements that support an effective coalition, namely, 1, goal-directedness. There must be a common goal or shared vision. 2, efficiency, which ensures a high work ethic to utilize resources to deliver services in a well-organized and effective manner. 3, opposition for participation. Members must be able to take on formal positions within the coalition that are tied to their expertise, abilities, and interests. 4, cohesion. This is synergistic collaboration which develops strong interpersonal relationships and increased commitment. 5, diverse stakeholders. Successful coalitions represents a diverse set of sectors, representing a broader group of stakeholders in the community. And finally, new skills. As a coalition builds and enhances its functioning, the acquisition and fostering of new knowledge and skills amongst its members increases the effectiveness of the coalition in achieving its outcomes. Allow me to quote Dr. Pierre de Vos in the literary work Marriages of Inconvenience, where he states, "The South African Constitution does not contain specific provisions regulating the formation and functioning of coalition governments in the national, provincial, and local spheres of government. Neither does ordinary legislation contain such specific regulatory provisions. However, the Constitution establishes a hybrid version of the system of parliamentary government, which applies at the national, provincial, and, with slight variations, local government level. And the choice of this system has important consequences for how coalition governments are formed and how they operate. In this regard, it is the view of the ACDP that positive legislation, and I emphasize positive legislation, must be put in place without negating the principle of a multi-party democracy. The ACDP fully understands that coalitions are at a local government level are fractious and unstable, and as a result, some legislative amendments may be necessary. With regards to the professionalization of our civil service, motions of no confidence, and the time period given to elect senior executive members after an election, what the ACDP will not support is the minimum threshold of valid votes cast in order to qualify for a seat. We view this as counter to the spirit of our Constitution, which I alluded to earlier, hence unconstitutional and certainly undemocratic when read in terms with Section 1521A and D in particular. The minimum threshold proposal is, in our view, exclusive, and it uses a sledgehammer approach to a problem that can quite easily be solved by legislation which ties coalition members into their agreement for the full 5-year term of office. In conclusion, the ACDP asserts that all political parties must never forget why we exist, and that is to serve the people of South Africa. The ACDP understands servant leadership. In the last 2 municipalities where we are coalition partners, the ACDP has not demanded MMC positions, even though we could, or executive positions, because our priority is our citizens and effective service delivery. The moment we forget the reason why we exist as political parties is the moment we fail to become relevant to ordinary South Africans. The ACDP will not forget, and we refuse to fall into the category of irrelevance in the hearts and minds of South Africans. Thank you.